So in this example, we're going to, first of all, and we should do this with anything new that comes to our attention. We want to go and look at accessibility check. Of course, we know it's not accessible because it's not fillable, right? But we have another reason that we're doing this. We want to see if it's actually tagged or not. We could do that on the tags. But it's a good habit to get into to run an accessibility check first and foremost. Anyway, I'm going to run a check. And we see that it has some issues out there. See, this is a good example of what I'm talking about when it comes to technical accessibility versus functional accessibility. If you just looked at the checker, you would think this document has very, very few issues in a sense that it may read the document from top to bottom. It may not have a lot of issues, but we know the document's not accessible. It's not fillable. So therefore, it's not accessible. So even if we fix the little things it has here, that's not going to magically make it accessible. We need to make it a fillable form. The other thing that this indicates to us is that this document is tagged. On a form like this, if I get it and it's not made to be fillable, but it has tags in it, what I will usually do is come over on the tags icon where the tags are, and I will delete the tags out of it and start over. Seems like a lot of work. Why would I do that? Because a lot of times, if it has tags already in it, Acrobat Pro has decided what it thinks the structure of the document is. I might find myself changing tags, adding tags, doing other things to the tags, and it will try to maintain the structure it remembers already and try to fit it in it. And a lot of times that doesn't work. You end up fighting with the system in order for it to do something you want. Like maybe the reading order somewhere isn't right, and you keep changing it, and the system either changes it back or breaks something else when you fix it. So you're usually better off working with a blank slate. The other thing is it has tags, but it has no form fields. I could go in here and manually add all the form fields, but this is a 4-page form with a bunch of form fields that occur in table cells. That would take a really long time. So in this case, I would really rather run it through prepare form first, because even if it has some stuff in it that's not correct, it's likely to get a lot of it correct. And I don't have to start completely from scratch, making the form fields and then tagging them. So the first thing I'd want to do to start from scratch is just delete all the tags out of the document. And I would just select tags on the tag side, right click, and I want to select delete tag. Now, I could go over and try to prepare form real quick, but if I do, I'm going to get a warning pop-up box saying I need to save the document before I do that. So whenever you delete tags like this, make a big change like this, go ahead and do a save. In this case, I will save this document because it won't let you make your big changes until you do save it. Okay, it's saved. I'm going to go out of prepare for accessibility now and go to prepare form. And here's my options menu. I don't have to click on anything in it, just create form. And there we go. We've got form fields going on here. And they look pretty good so far. It's missed this one for leader. We can manually add that and tag it later. Assigned work site was missed as well. And it has recognized these cells in the table are form fields. For some reason, it thinks there's a form field at day of the week. That's wrong. Looks like it's done a good job of the fields through most of the document. There's a few little errors, but we'll work through them as we go. And as is typical, it defaults to text fields, and nothing up here is actually a text field. These are all radio buttons. So we're going to have to replace all of these early in the document. So note that when you have fields that run across multiple pages, the order that we saw earlier remains true, but we now have page indicators. If I close these up, you can see that each page is its own set of form fields. We can go through page 1 to page 2. so forth. Okay, so let's start looking at page 1 here. These first 4 items on page 1 are all made up of radio buttons. Radio buttons are, you can select one option. You have to select one option. You can't select multiple, and you can't select none. You have to select something. All of these, as we can see over here, are text fields. So they're all going to have to go, and they're all going to have to be replaced. So I'll go ahead and delete these out. Okay. Okay, and in our prepare form, add form components, we want radio buttons. Okay, so I'm going to select radio button. The first one, number 1 here, is a yes and no. So we want one in the yes field and one in the no. I'll drop one in yes and one in no. So radio buttons operate in what's called a grouping. You'll see group 13 down here at the bottom of the page 1 field. And effectively, the group is the title name of both of them together, so to speak, choice 1 and choice 2. Choice 1 and choice 2 are here. You change the name of the choices here on the order tab, and then we go in and adjust the tooltips and whatever, however we see fit. So I'm going to hit escape twice to close out of that. And we're going to double click on the first one. It has a name, and the name should be the same for any 2 that are an interrelated set of choices. That's how it knows to group them together. So for ease's sake, I can actually come to where it says group 13 here, click it a second time, and that's where we'll do our, is this request for all remote work to be completed inside the state of Kansas? And that's a pretty complex sentence to simplify in such a way, remote work, yes or no. In Kansas, remote. I could say all in Kansas remote work. What I'm trying to do is find a way to take that longer statement and kind of condense it down, so to speak. Choice 1. So now if we look at them, this one's clicked and it says on Kansas remote work. The second one says the same thing. Okay, so they're grouped together. Choice 1, I'm going to go over here on this and say yes. Choice 2, I'm going to say no. That gives the 2 choices. The tooltips will be the same between the 2 items. So for tooltip, I will say select yes or no. Copy that. Select the second one, and you see it says the same thing. Okay, so that's good. We want to maybe visually change them so that they look a little nicer on the screen. And I can do the same adjustments that I did on the previous one. I'm just going to stretch them out a little bit and come over on my prepare form tools. And I'm going to use shift to select them both at the same time. I want them both to be the same width. And so let's see here. There's our match width. There we go. That line is a little longer than the other one. That's okay. And match height. I click outside of it. They're the same. It looks like the line is a little bit different on both, but it's okay. We can continue from there. And with a document of this complexity, I'm going to save a lot. I'm going to be saving very, very often in advanced forms here. The reason being, when we start working with things like these tables, it's tables and lists. When you start moving stuff around in them a lot, that Acrobat tends to crash. largely, I think, due to the complexity that's required in moving that stuff around. So you're going to see me saving a lot in this video. And I would recommend that you do as well, because you don't want to have to redo a bunch of tags and form fields because you forgot to save for a 15-minute period or whatever. Number 2 is new request, modification to existing request, or extension of previous request. This is also a radio button series. So I'm going to go select radio button and drop 3 radio buttons here. New request, modification to existing request, an extension of previous request. There we go. Now note that it thinks that it is the same as this. It thinks it's adding onto the same group. That is incorrect. It's not involved with those in any way. So we have to give those a different group naming. So I'm going to escape twice to get rid of the additional thing. I'm going to double click the first one. See, all in Kansas remote work isn't what it is. It's an entirely different thing. So we're going to change the group name for these 3. I'm going to change the name on the first one to new, comma, modification, comma, or extension, like that. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to the second one. See how we've invented a new group here? I'm going to select it, paste, select the next one. Now I've got 2 choices in it. On the third one, do the same thing. Now we have an entirely new group there, and see our all in Kansas remote work has been separated into its own group. It does this a lot when you have sequential ones like this. It will try to lump them all in one group, and you have to give them a different group name like that. So choice 1 is new request. Choice 2, modification to existing request. I'm being very literal in these, just to be clear with them. Choice 3, I will make extension of previous request. Okay. And on the tooltip for these 3, I'm just going to have one selected here because it should change them for all 3. I'm going to say select new request, modification to existing request, or extension of previous request. And if I click on these, didn't carry it over, so we want to copy and paste that actually. It didn't keep it in the first one, did it? These can be a little bit picky sometimes. So I might actually be able to select all 3. Let's do that. Okay, it's not going to allow me to set the tooltip that way. That's fine. We'll do new request. We will do paste it in. And this should be, since I copied it. Oh, nope, it kept it from somewhere else. All right, that's fine. Select new request, modification to existing request, or extension of previous request. Select that and copy it. Move to the second one, paste, select the third one, and it carried over this time. Okay. So we've got the tooltips for those. What probably happened there is I set it for the first one, and before it could carry over to the other 2, I closed it. It's probably the reason that occurred that way. Anyway, so far, all in Kansas remote work, you'll see if I click that, it has both of them highlighted because they're both subset within it, right? If I click new modification or request or extension, I mean, it has those 3 selected. All in Kansas remote work, option yes, option no, new modification or extension, new request, modification, and extension. We're going to continue this through 3 and 4. And first we'll save. If I wanted to, I could stretch these out to take up the whole spaces there. I think I'll leave these ones alone. That would be an optional thing. If you wanted to do it, you could. If you don't want to do it, you can not do it. It's up to you entirely. Some people would want this to fill that whole space where the line is. Some people are okay if it just got the box and it looks relatively neat. Sort of your mileage may vary type of opinion there. Next, we become a request for remote work to be temporary or permanent. Again, we're doing radio buttons. Select my radio button tool, drop the first one, and drop the second one. Okay. And just like before, it's adding it to the new modification or extension. We're going to have to separate it from that. Escape twice. And I'm going to select the first one, double click on it. And we need to change the name so it starts a new grouping. Request for remote work type. We'll say that. Type being temporary or permanent. I will select that and copy it. Move to the next. Starts a new group. And under there, I will paste the same thing. Switch back to the first. We have a new group. Choice 1, we want to set to temporary in the field, and choice 2 is permanent. Okay, so that much is done. Now we need to change the tooltip. Let's see if we can do it without it being really weird this time. Select the tooltip. Select the entire tooltip. The first one is, and we'll do select temporary or permanent. Copy that. Go to the second one. And it's carried it over. Okay. So that one's already good. Nice grouping there. No problems with that one. Close this. Finally, we have type of remote work arrangement. I'm going to go ahead and save before we do this. Occasional, temporary, or regular. Select the radio button option. And we're going to drop our 3 buttons. By default, it's going to add them to the choices above. There we go. Escape twice to get rid of the drop downs. Type of remote work arrangement. I'm going to double click here, and I'm just going to change the name to literally that. Type of work arrangement. Copy. Select the second one. Do the same thing. Select the third one. Also do the same thing. Okay. So that will line up our choices. It gives us our group here, and we're ready to start working with our choices. Okay, now we need to change the choice names here. So for the 3, choice 1, double click occasional. Second choice, double click temporary. And choice 3, regular. Okay. And that's our type of work arrangement. Okay. So we have our grouping set up here. And if we look here, in terms of the order of the page, we down arrow through it, we're going to see that we are out of order. All of this stuff down here, these groupings, actually come before the new request, or before the employee name and WSU ID. Okay, so I'm going to come down here. I'm going to left click on All in Kansas Remote Work as a group. And I'm also going to hold my shift key and left click type of work arrangement to select all that stuff. I'm going to pull it up and move it right here. You see the line between page 1 and 1 employee name, and I'm going to drop it. And there's our groupings. Within each grouping are the options. If we wanted to open them, 2, 3, 4, and we're back to the page in the order it needs to be in. So I'm going to go ahead and save, and we will continue with the remote work employee information. Okay, now we're ready to continue with remote work employee information section, employee name and WSU ID. A lot of this is going to be familiar, but we do have some more radio buttons to incorporate here, and it missed one entirely here. Employee name, WSU ID, double click. We don't need the number. It's pulling the number from here. So we can delete that off. The tooltip. Oh, and see how it changed over? We don't want that. Select the first one again. We just want to tell them to enter it. Enter employee number and WSU ID. And the appearances should all be auto for the ones that we don't have to create for those. Yeah. Now you might be wondering on these if we have to adjust that. The answer is no. It's not a font thing. It's going to drop a dot or a check in there. So we don't have to worry about those on the size on appearance. But we do for these because they're typing into them. And for the next one, job title. We don't need the 2. So we'll delete that off. And it switched again. Such a charming trait. Clear out job that and do enter job title here. Okay. Okay, that brings us up to workload. So the workload here and the FLSA status are both radio buttons as well. I'm going to get rid of this text field properties. And we can also see that the form didn't make a field here. The prepare form didn't. It's not perfect. It's really good, but does its best. So we delete those out, and these are going to be radio buttons as well. And the first thing I'm going to do is add the first 4 options. Like so. And we're going to escape twice to get out of it. These 2 look like they're slightly crooked, so I'm going to shift click to select them both, and we have align buttons that can do a left or right. I will do left. Okay, and I'll do the same with these 2. Select them both, align left. Okay, and for these workload ones, we can see them here. Just like before, they've tried to add them to the ones above. That's not where they go. So we're going to change the grouping, and we're going to call the grouping for these workload FTE. Workload FTE. And we're going to go through them. You can see we've added a new group. Paste. Third one. Paste. And 4th one. Paste. Okay. Click on the first one again. And let's see where this put these. It put these remote work arrangement there. Put them to the end. So we'll still have to move them around. That's okay. Let's do our choices real quick. Choice 1 up to, and we're going to just type what it says here. Up to 0.25. 1 to 10 hours. Note I'm writing that out literally and not an abbreviation. The second one will be up to 0.50. 1 to 20 hours. Third one is up to 0.75. 1 to 32 hours. And the fourth one is 1.0. 40 hours or more. Okay, so those are our 4 options. Now we want to look at the tooltips. Tooltip for the first, well, for all of them. Let's see, what do we want to put here? This is kind of complicated because we need to list the options here. Select up to 0.25. up to 0.50, up to 0.75, or 1.0 or more hours. Let's copy that. Let's sit there a minute. We're going to make sure it carries over. And as I click through each, yep, they're there. So that's good. I'm going to close that. I need that to appear after job title in the order. Job titles appear. Workload FTE is down here. I'm going to close up workload FTE, and I'm going to drag it up below job title. Now I've got job title, and it goes directly into it. I'm going to save. We're going to do FLSA status. That's another radio button option. I'm going to do exempt, move the second one over non-exempt. Okay. Escape twice to get rid of the box. It's going to add it here where it doesn't need to be. So we're going to select the first one, double click, name will be FLSA status. Copy, go to the second one, select the name, same thing. Select the first again. Under the two choices, choice one will be exempt. Choice two will be non-exempt. Click on the first one again. Tooltip, select exempt or non-exempt. Select it all and copy it. So we want to make sure it carries over. It did okay, so that's no issue. Close this. That needs to occur after workload FTE, and it's at the bottom of the page. I'm going to close it up and drag FLSA status under workload FTE and drop it. And there are those. So let's save it, and we'll move on down to the fillable fields. Okay, department, click that, double click it. We don't need the 5. Department, enter department here. And looks like we have a couple missing form fields that the system did not see. Leader and assigned work site. That's okay, we can do that. Those are text fields. We can grab a text field here, bring it and drop one for leader, and drop one for assigned work site here. Okay, hit escape twice to get rid of the field setter. I'm going to grab on the handles, I'm going to grab the upper right one, the diagonal arrows there, and hold left click and just resize it. Make it more or less match up everything else. And I'm going to do the same thing to assigned work site. Okay. Looks like there's a bit of a gap there, but it doesn't look bad. Real quick, I'm going to select the top one, and I'm going to use shift left click to select all of these. They're kind of weirdly off the side edgewise. I'm going to go up to align, and I have this button that's align right. There we go. Everything will be a little bit neater that way. Oh, it took my FLSAs and did that. Let's edit undo. Somehow managed to capture those as well. Select outside. Let's try that again. And for some reason, it is selecting those as well. It may be their position relative to the tags. Yeah, so we may have to actually go through, do all the other work. It may not actually ever do that correctly. That's okay. We'll just go through and change it. Department is done. Let's do department, enter department here. Appearance is okay. Leader, select that. Change the name to leader. Tooltip is enter leader here. Now, because we made this form field, we do need to go on the appearance and make sure it's set to auto. So I'm going to go on the appearance tab, See how it's at the font size 12? If we left it like that, it would only enter text in the space as a font size of 12. That could cause issues if it's a really long name or if there's something involved here because it won't fit in the space. I'm going to go ahead and set that to auto. And I'm going to leave it on the appearance tab and click the assigned work one. And automatically just go ahead and set that to auto. Then I'm going to click the general. So I sort of come back through the circle that way. Name of this one is assigned work site. Enter assigned work. Oops. Hope that was right. Assigned work site here. Okay. Requested alternate work location. Doesn't need an 8. Take that off. Tooltip. Enter requested alternate work site location here. And see the appearance on the ones the system made are already auto, so we don't have to worry about that. Back to general. Remote work start date. Take off the 9. Enter remote work start date here. And 10, remote work end date or anticipated. I'm going to take off the 10. Enter remote work date end or anticipated. Let's change that to end date, comma, anticipated date or otherwise. Because they're wanting an option that isn't anticipated. So we're going to assume they know what the other option is. Okay. And let's close that up. Let's see. We had to create the form fields for leader and assigned work site. So they're out of order with everything again. Yep. So we need those to appear under department. I'm going to select leader and I'm going to shift click to select assigned work site. And I'm going to drag them under leader. Or I'm going to drag them under department, sorry. Like that. Okay. Department, leader, assigned work site. There we go. Remote work review. There we go. And that is a field as well. That's this one. Double click. Remote work arrangement review date. We can leave the name as it is. Tooltip, enter work arrangement review date here. Here, and then we're going to do our format trick. Format, month, /day, day, /year, year. Y. We're going to go to format, select date, and select the corresponding option. Okay. And that is the form fields for the first page. Next up, we'll move on to the second page.